What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. I am a #1 best-selling science fiction author and a comic creator, and I've got my link to the Amazon page of my books in the description below. There's a little something for everybody. If you like cosmic stuff, you might want to check out my Cosmic Warrior, especially. I definitely do a lot of callbacks to stuff like Cosmic Marvel in the 90s. That you might like. And this is by Ron Marz. Now, Ron Marz was writing a lot of Silver Surfer at the time. He was involved kind of in the Infinity crossovers, just on that level. And he ended up writing his own Thanos book towards the late 90s. I believe this happens after Infinity Abyss, which is a lesser-known book by Jim Starlin. But I've been basically trying to read all the Cosmic and Thanos stuff all the way through in Marvel from the 90s, and I've read all the Infinity stuff. So this is kind of like a little just different take on Thanos, which is kind of fun. Now this is like a maxi mini-series. I don't know what you want to call this, but there's a little bit in Secret Defenders at first that sets this thing up. And Secret Defenders has this whole like sort of cosmic storyline going on. And Thanos ends up looking for some like deal which he was trying to get trying to get some like cosmic power, of course. And he sends this whole group of unlikely heroes to go fight together, or villains, heroes, whatever you want to call them. Protagonists, I guess, is probably the best way. Very 90s layouts of the story, very 90s colors all the way around. But it's high action packed, and this is really fun, especially if you know these characters. I didn't read any of the other Secret Defenders, but that's it. And there's this like robot that has this like knowledge of everything, and eventually Thanos wants it because he's like, hey, I want that knowledge core because knowledge is power. Pretty Thanos-y thing to do. And then he leaves all the dudes there to fend for themselves and escape as it goes. I like Ron Marz's writing quite a bit, actually. Super 90s. If you like the 90s, you're going to enjoy this book. One thing I hate about the 90s is these little, like, turn the comic sideways double spreads. Oh my gosh. I'm glad they stopped doing that for the most part. But you get all these characters in there. This is actually the son of Captain Marvel, and he plays some parts in this storyline. Silver Surfer ends up saving everybody and rescuing the Rhino to bring him home at the end. Kind of interesting. Then you get into this Cosmic Powers miniseries. Now, each one of these is like a double issue. So you get a really long issue. And you got Ron Lim penciling. At least this one. Each issue kind of has a different penciler. I think probably because of time constraints and all that. But pretty neat. So Thanos starts out with this one. And you kind of get this background of Thanos as he's kind of chilling. And they're going to go after this this other villain to take him down, which was set up in the Silver Surfer by Ron Marz's stuff. And here it is. He's called the Tyrant. And in theory, he was involved with Galactus negatively in the Silver Surfer. If you read that, I forget which Silver Surfer Epic Collection this storyline's in, but it is in one. And you can read that in there. I think it's maybe volume 8, if I think about it. And all these characters were tied in with that. Terrax is one of them here, and you kind of like learn who these characters are through this stuff. And each issue focuses on a character as they kind of start. They have their own paths, and they kind of end up together towards the end of things here. Jack of Hearts and Ganymede, and they're kind of lovers through this. Different cosmic characters that were in Silver Surfer at the time again. And the art really shifts between the different deals. This is more of like an early 90s look compared to the later 90s look that we saw in the Secret Defenders. And Ron Lim gets back on Legacy, who's Captain Marvel's son. He wants to go out and fight, and he ends up dealing with the character who actually killed his father. So he wants to go off and avenge him and all that. And lots of fun through here. These are really, really good storylines. I wouldn't say it's like super impactful, but it just feels like a good comic. It's a lot of fun. The heroes are being heroes. They're going out there. There's Morg, as you can see. If you know who the characters are, it definitely helps. I think if you went into reading this by itself without having read the Infinity Trilogy and the Warlock and the Infinity Watch stuff, if you hadn't read Silver Surfer, you probably wouldn't like this as much. This art's really not as good. Got very odd looking shape on the woman here that doesn't quite work out. Who drew this issue? It was not Ron Lim. Tom Grindberg? I don't know. Not familiar. But like I said, it's hit and miss depending on who's drawing it. And eventually they do get together and they end up fighting against Tyrant, who's like trying to restore his evil empire and take over the universe, of course, right? And there's a giant battle, and it all works out at the end, because that's how comic books kind of work typically. I wouldn't say it's a big necessary read for the Thanos character. It doesn't really get referenced again by Jim Starlin as he goes into his sort of epics later. I don't think it gets referenced in Annihilation, or I haven't read Annihilation yet, but I don't think it gets referenced later on so much. But it is a fun little story. It does add to the character of Thanos. It shows that he's not really trying to achieve omniscience anymore, but trying to live within his own bounds by his own sort of rules at this point. And a lot of these cosmic characters like Jack of Hearts and Morg really get ignored over the course of a lot of things. So it's nice to kind of see them get a little bit of spotlight. So fun stuff. I'd call this an 8 out of 10 overall. There's parts where the art's not so great, and but the writing flows really nicely. Ron Mars does a good job and seems to know these characters pretty well. All right, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.